Okay, so in this video we're going to get really down and dirty here with bone, and we're going to begin by talking about that bone unit that I briefly mentioned last video. So we have the osteon, and the osteon is going to be made up of a few components here. It's going to be made up of a central canal. Remember we talked about that last video as well, where the blood vessels and the nerves can pass through the bone. So every single osteon has this central canal, so there should be no surprise. There's lots of blood flow through bone and lots of nerves as well. And they can run as long as the osteon unit runs through the bone, which in some cases can be almost the entire length of the diaphysis. Associated with the central canals then are the bone, the rings of bone that we've seen in all of our visuals, right? These rings that are concentric, that are one's larger than the next, and at each level of the concentric lamellae we see a ring of osteocytes, right? And then we'll see another ring of osteocytes, and of course they used to be the osteoblast that deposited that inner portion of that ring's material. So these are called concentric lamellae, these rings that form around the central canal, or that actually form the central canal. Now between these concentric lamellae has to be more bone, but we'll talk about that next slide. In the lamellae, in each of these concentric lamellae, in each of those rings, you're going to see the osteocytes embedded in lacunae, right? We've talked about those several times. And then you'll also see the canaliculi. Remember, those are the passageways for the cell processes from the osteocytes so they can travel through the bone, reach each other, they'll form gap junctions with each other, and allow the cells then to communicate with each other. Now the whole outer edge of the bone is surrounded by what is termed circumferential lamellae, and it's made by osteoblast as well, but it encompasses and encases the entire bone. And then between the bone units, we're going in between those rings of concentric lamellae, we've got a deposit bone to link them together. And that bone that's in between those concentric lamellae is called interstitial lamellae. And here we see a great picture of it. And you can see in this one area right here, an osteon. In this area, you see the blood vessels poking out, a lymphatic vessel. We haven't really talked about those. There'll be a nerve in there. And you can see how these osteocytes are depositing the bone in the ring. That's the ring that surrounds those cells. And we can see this is a bone unit. And in between adjoining bone units, you've got to have some bone that joins those together. And this bone that's in between the bone units is the interstitial bone, or the interstitial lamellae. And then surrounding the entire bone, you have a few rings of bone tissue that surround the entire bone called circumferential lamellae. Now this also shows you some insight into what spongy bone looks like, and it has none of the organization that compact bone does. This is a neat little picture. It also shows you the osteocyte embedded inside a lacuna, and then the canaliculi that branch out from that lacuna. Another picture, if you like this one better, take a look at it. This is a little more simplistic in its presentation, but you can easily see the interstitial lamellae here, and then the circumferential lamellae, and then of course the concentric lamellae that surround the central canals. Also, I want to point out over here how you see the collagen fiber orientation is altered in each ring. This confers incredible strength. It's a beautiful shot. I love this shot. On the left side, you see the conventional photograph that we've observed before in our tissues. We see the concentric lamellae here with the osteocytes, but let's do a procedure that gets rid of all the organic material. And so here is none of the organic material is left. This is just collagen, and then you see the pits of the lacunae that are present here, the central canals, but none of the organic matter is present. I thought that was really a neat picture. This is some pictures from your APR, and just highlights the individual components, the osteons with the concentric lamellae, the interstitial lamellae that are in between them, the central canals, and then of course all the osteocytes present. So hopefully this is getting really familiar to you in terms of where these are located. All right, so we're in the epiphysis region, of the bone. This one happens to be the femur, and you can see the picture of the spongy bone here, none of the organization in the compact bone that we just begin to see emerging right here as we head into the diaphysis. So spongy bone does not have osteons. It actually forms a network of trabeculae that are these finger-like projections, if you will. It's what trabeculae are, fingers. And these finger-like projections really decrease the amount of weight of the bone, but they also provide a lot of shearing protection, so you're not going to shear off the upward portions of these bones. So this, what spongy bone really supplies to bone structure, is this prevention of this wiggling back and forth. And that's really important at the end of bones as well. Trabeculae do not have blood supply to them. Let's look at some pictures, and I'll point out here, this shouldn't be periosteum, that should be endosteum, I believe. And you see the marrow cavity, you see all of the trabeculae as well. And this is just a beautiful photograph of the trabeculae that you find inside spongy bone. Remarkable. And so here's our overview, kind of our what's the take-home message here, just kind of understand how things are organized in bone, how they're presented, the blood vessels, the nerves, the lymphatic vessels, how the spongy bone relates to the compact bone, how the compact bone is structured, and so forth. And you'll be in great shape for this chapter.